Why is it so easy to list 10 things wrong with the person that you love, and so hard to list 3 things that they're doing right? You see, we think that what we notice about others is who they really are. But it's not true. And as long as we focus on the negative side of any situation or anything, all we're going to see is more negativity. We get what we focus on. We get more of it. Where your attention goes, intention flows. Right? Where does that start from? Well, that starts up here, inside our head, with our thoughts. Because the 3 things that we've got control over, which are our thoughts, our words, and our actions, all start with a simple thought. Now, we have 2 kinds of thoughts coming into our head. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, negative thoughts. Good thoughts don't come from Satan. They can't. And bad thoughts can only come from Satan. Now, the thing is, Satan can't make us say things, and he can't make us do things. But he can whisper thoughts and suggestions in our heads. Now, how do I know this? Well, it's in the Bible, for starters, right? In Ephesians 6:12, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. Now, St. Paul also said in Corinthians that we must take every thought captive, right? And he also said in Corinthians that we are not ignorant of his devices. So, as I said before, he can't make us say or do anything, but he can whisper in our ear. And it's up to us what we do with the thoughts that he puts inside of our head. Now, if we're not taking every thought captive and we're just letting it run around our head, gathering momentum, bringing friends, sitting up there for a long time, doing his thing and having a good old time, and also growing that thought, letting it bring its buddies and sitting with it. It's only a matter of time before we take action on it. Now, that action being in the form of words or physical action, that's up for you to decide. So, this is where we've got to be super, super careful. What are we doing with the thoughts that are going on in our head? And as a reference, like where in my own personal life, the thoughts were always very loud when I was at work, working on a job that I knew back to front, knew how to do. I was very good at it. And so my mind would go blank. And then all of a sudden, thoughts would start to pop in. Like random stuff, it might have been a conversation I had with my wife the night before, or maybe a week before, maybe. Could have been years ago. Could have even been something that happened, or a past conversation with, I don't know, somebody that I used to work with, whoever, years before. Something that I'd never even thought about. And that thought would jump into my head, and I'd sit there and dwell on it for a long, long time. And I'd start to feel anger, apprehension, maybe anxious. I might be anxious about it. And resentment even. And I'd build a case, and I'd ask myself all the questions like, I wonder what that person meant, or I wonder what they were thinking when they did that, because I wouldn't do it that way. And I'd end up building a case against that person in my own head, right? And then I'd either call them or be talking to them and cause an argument, right? Because I'd already judged them in my own head. I'd already made up in my head what they meant, what they might have been thinking at the time. and I'd already judged them and judged them guilty, right? And then, or I'd go home in a bad mood and start arguing with my wife, right? She had no idea what was going on. She didn't know I'd been sitting at work all day dwelling on these thoughts, right? And here's the thing, like Jesus spoke about this, right? He said, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, and an evil tree cannot bring forth good fruit. So if we are sowing negative thoughts into our lives in the form of negative words, negative actions, arguments, worry, stress, doubt, fear, right? That's the forms they all come in. We can't expect to have good outcomes in our life, okay? Because good things don't come from negative inputs or negative seeds. So this is why it's so important to take each thought captive, to analyze every thought that's coming through our brain during the day, and ask yourself a question, like this thought that's in my head now, is it making me feel angry? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling resentment? Like, what are the physical signs that it's having inside me now? Right? That's how you test them. You put the thoughts to the test. Because if it's a thought from God, it's going to give peace, joy, confidence, happiness. That's how we tell. That's how we tell the difference. Because Satan knows just how powerful our thoughts really are. And here's the funny thing. You can't see a thought, right? You can't see it. But you can feel it. You can feel the outcome of it in there. And like, what ends up happening is over time, and especially this is in my own situation that I'll refer to it as, but over time, these thoughts in our head stack up like little pebbles, right? And they build a divide between us and the person that we say we love, right? And they either build a wall or dig a moat, whatever reference we like to put there. We'll dig a hole. And eventually it gets so big that we can't cross over. And then we go around and say, that wasn't the right person. They were doing this, and this, and just doesn't add up with me. It just doesn't align with my life. But the thing is, if we're looking for the negative in every single situation in our lives, everybody's going to be the wrong person. Every situation is not going to be right. And if we're not aware of what's going on, our whole life is going to end up being a train wreck. We're going to be picking arguments with everybody, causing fights, literally getting the outcomes that we don't desire because we say, we want a life filled with joy and happiness, right? That's what we say we want, and that is what we want. But then we're going through life looking for all the negative aspects in every situation, right? And, as I say, like the glass is half full. We can either look at the fact that, we can either focus on the fact that the glass is half full, or we can focus on the fact that it's half empty. So we get to choose how we see every situation. And if we choose to see the negative side of every situation, we can't expect to have a positive outcome. We can't expect to have positive results. We can't expect to have a positive life. So what I want to leave you with today is let's start paying attention to what's going on up here. Because just like a rudder on a ship, which is under the water, you cannot see. Yet that little thing that you can't see is guiding that big boat. which is us, our life, right? The little thing you can't see is guiding us towards the destination. And if we're not careful about where we're steering and we're not putting the right inputs into our rudder, i.e. our thoughts, then don't be surprised when you end up in a place that you really don't want to be. Because that is the outcome of not taking hold of each thought, analysing it, putting it to the test. And if it's a negative thought, throw it in the bin, right? Taking hold of that thought and saying, get out of my head. I know you're a liar. Leave me alone. And making that choice not to dwell on it, not to feed it energy, right? Casting it out, taking it by the heels, chucking it into the fire where it belongs, and replacing that negative thought with a positive thought, i.e., how good is this going to be when it works? I can do this. I can succeed at this thing, whatever it is that I may be doing, I'm tempting to do. And instead of thinking negative thoughts about the other person, swap them out with, well, let's make a list of how many good things I can think about them. What are the good things that I can think about that they did yesterday? That's just a practical example of how we can get those negative thoughts and turn them 180 degrees and just watch your life change. Because mine has. It has taken me a long time to work this out. A long time of getting the results that I didn't want.